When digital restoration specialist Emma Richardson began processing the archived collections at the New York Historical Society in early 2023, she expected to encounter the usual assortment of faded daguerreotypes, crumbling documents, and forgotten family portraits that had accumulated in the museum's vast storage facilities over the past century and a half. What she discovered in a mislabeled box marked "Miscellaneous Railroad Memorabilia" would shake her understanding of reality so profoundly that she would question whether time itself operated according to the laws she had always believed governed the universe. The photograph that would change everything appeared unremarkable at first glance, showing what seemed to be a typical scene from the early 20th century. A young boy, perhaps 6 years old, kneeling on a wooden floor beside an elaborate toy train set. The child's clothing suggested the image had been taken around 1910, and the sepia tones and formal composition indicated it had been captured in a professional photographer's studio rather than a casual family setting. The toy train itself was clearly an expensive piece, featuring intricate details that spoke of superior craftsmanship and significant monetary investment. Multiple cars stretched across the frame, including a steam locomotive with miniature pistons and driving wheels that appeared functional even at that reduced scale. The train cars were painted in rich colors that had somehow retained their vibrancy, despite the passage of more than a century, and tiny windows revealed glimpsed interiors that seemed impossibly detailed for toys of that era. Emma had been scanning historical photographs for nearly 15 years, developing an expert eye for the subtle details that could reveal a document's authenticity, age, and significance. But as she fed this particular image through the Historical Society's state-of-the-art digital enhancement equipment, she began to notice characteristics that defied explanation according to everything she knew about early 20th century photography and toy manufacturing. The first anomaly became apparent when Emma zoomed in on the toy train's locomotive. Using magnification software designed to reveal fine details in historical artifacts, she discovered that the miniature steam engine contained moving parts that appeared to be in actual motion despite the static nature of the photograph. Tiny pistons seemed to be captured mid-stroke. Drive wheels showed rotation blur that suggested they had been spinning when the image was taken, and most impossibly, the locomotive's smokestack appeared to be emitting actual steam that rose in realistic wisps before dissipating into the studio air. Emma checked her equipment calibration and repeated the enhancement process, thinking that fatigue or eye strain might be causing her to misinterpret the digital data. But each successive scan confirmed her initial observations, while revealing additional impossibilities that challenged everything she understood about the limitations of early photography and mechanical engineering. The toy train cars showed similar signs of impossible functionality. Passenger windows revealed glimpsed figures that appeared to be moving between compartments. Cargo doors seemed to be opening and closing as if operated by invisible hands, and the coupling mechanisms between cars showed the dynamic stress patterns that would only occur if the train were actually moving under its own power. Most disturbing of all was the young boy's expression as he watched his toy train. Rather than the typical childhood delight that might be expected from a child playing with such an elaborate toy, his face showed a mixture of concentration and apprehension that suggested he was observing something far more complex and potentially dangerous than a simple plaything. Emma immediately contacted Dr. Marcus Fitzgerald, the Historical Society's chief curator and a recognized expert in early 20th century photography and material culture. Dr. Fitzgerald had spent over 3 decades studying the intersection of technology and daily life during the Industrial Revolution, and his expertise in period photography techniques made him the ideal consultant for understanding the anomalies Emma had discovered. When Dr. Fitzgerald arrived at Emma's workstation and examined the enhanced images, his reaction was immediate and uncharacteristic. A man known for his measured academic approach to historical puzzles, he studied the train photograph with growing agitation before requesting that Emma enlarge specific sections of the image to maximum magnification. The detailed examination revealed that the toy train's impossibilities extended far beyond simple mechanical movement. The locomotive's firebox showed what appeared to be actual flames, complete with realistic heat distortion effects that would have been impossible to fake using 1910-era photographic techniques. The train's whistle seemed to be releasing steam in a pattern that suggested it had been sounded immediately before the photograph was taken. Most incredibly, the track beneath the train showed wear patterns and stress marks that indicated it had been supporting the weight and movement of a full-sized locomotive rather than a toy. Dr. Fitzgerald ordered a comprehensive analysis of the photograph's provenance, requesting that Emma trace its history from its current location back to its original source. The investigation would require examining acquisition records, donor documentation, and any surviving correspondence that might explain how the image had come to be preserved in the Historical Society's archives. The provenance research revealed that the photograph had been donated to the Historical Society in 1987 as part of a large collection inherited from the estate of Margaret Holloway, an elderly woman who had lived her entire life in a Victorian mansion on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. According to the donation records, the Holloway collection contained thousands of photographs, documents, and artifacts spanning nearly 2 centuries of American history, with particular emphasis on railroad development and industrial innovation. Margaret Holloway's personal papers, which had been preserved along with the photograph collection, revealed that she had been the great-niece of Thomas Holloway, a prominent railroad financier who had played a crucial role in the development of America's transcontinental rail network during the late 19th century. The family had maintained extensive archives documenting the railroad industry's growth, including technical drawings, correspondence with inventors, and photographs of experimental technologies that had been tested during the industry's pioneering decades. Among Margaret Holloway's papers, Emma discovered a leather-bound journal that contained references to the toy train photograph and the circumstances under which it had been taken. According to the journal, the image showed Margaret's younger brother Edward, who had been photographed with his favorite toy in the family's Manhattan home during the winter of 1910. But the journal entries describing Edward's toy train suggested that it had been far more than a simple plaything. Margaret had written that the train had been a gift from their great-uncle Thomas, who had commissioned it from a mysterious inventor who claimed to have developed revolutionary miniaturization technologies that could reproduce the full functionality of life-sized machines in perfectly scaled models. The inventor, identified in the journal only as Professor M, had reportedly created the toy train using techniques that he claimed were based on principles of dimensional engineering and temporal mechanics that conventional science would not discover for many decades. According to Margaret's account, Professor M had demonstrated the train's capabilities to Thomas Holloway in a private exhibition that had convinced the railroad financier to invest heavily in the inventor's research. Margaret's journal described the toy train as possessing characteristics that seemed to violate physical laws. The miniature locomotive could operate for hours without any visible fuel source. The train cars could carry loads that far exceeded what their size should have allowed. And most remarkably, the entire train set seemed to exist in a state of temporal acceleration that allowed it to cover vast distances within the confines of a small room. According to the journal, Edward had spent countless hours playing with the train, but his games had taken on an increasingly serious character as he began to claim that he could use the toy to visit real places and experience actual events. The boy had described traveling to distant cities, witnessing historical events and meeting people who lived in times and places far removed from his everyday existence in 1910 New York. Emma shared Margaret Holloway's journal with Dr. Fitzgerald, who recognized the descriptions as potentially relating to early experiments in dimensional manipulation and temporal engineering that had been rumored to occur during the early 20th century. While mainstream science had dismissed such claims as fantasy, recent developments in quantum physics and consciousness research had begun to suggest that reality might be far more malleable than previous generations had believed. Dr. Fitzgerald contacted Dr. Sarah Chen, a theoretical physicist from Columbia University, who specialized in temporal mechanics and dimensional theory. Dr. Chen had been investigating reports of anomalous technologies that had appeared throughout history, often disappearing before they could be properly studied or replicated by conventional scientists. When Dr. Chen examined the toy train photograph, she immediately recognized characteristics that were consistent with her theoretical work on dimensional interface technologies. According to her analysis, The train appeared to be operating using principles that allowed it to access multiple dimensional layers simultaneously, creating the appearance of impossible functionality by drawing resources and energy from parallel reality streams. Dr. Chen's theoretical framework suggested that the toy train might have been an early prototype of dimensional engineering technology that could manipulate the boundaries between different layers of reality. Such technology would allow objects to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, accessing resources and capabilities from each dimensional layer while maintaining their physical presence in baseline reality. The implications were staggering. If the toy train was indeed a functional dimensional interface device, it represented technology that was centuries ahead of contemporary scientific understanding. The existence of such advanced capabilities in 1910 suggested that someone had achieved breakthrough discoveries in physics and engineering that had somehow been lost or suppressed before they could transform human civilization. Dr. Chen requested permission to conduct detailed analyses of the photograph using equipment designed to detect dimensional anomalies and temporal distortions. Her measurements revealed electromagnetic signatures associated with the train image that were consistent with active dimensional manipulation, suggesting that the photograph had somehow preserved not just visual information, but actual dimensional interface data. The electromagnetic readings indicated that the toy train photograph was continuing to maintain an active connection to the dimensional technologies it had originally documented. This meant that the image was not simply a historical record, but a functioning portal that could potentially provide access to the same dimensional manipulation capabilities that Professor M had built into the original train set. Emma and Dr. Fitzgerald realized that they had discovered something far more significant than a curious historical artifact. The toy train photograph represented evidence of advanced technologies that could revolutionize human understanding of reality while providing access to capabilities that might transform civilization itself. Dr. Chen established a secure research facility for studying the photograph's dimensional properties while maintaining the secrecy necessary to prevent premature disclosure of technologies that could be dangerous if misused. The research required careful balance between scientific investigation and security concerns, as dimensional manipulation technologies could pose existential threats if they fell into the wrong hands. The initial research revealed that the toy train photograph functioned as a dimensional viewing portal that allowed observers to witness events occurring in parallel reality streams. By focusing on different sections of the image, researchers could access visual information from multiple dimensional layers, providing unprecedented insights into the nature of parallel universes and alternate timelines. The dimensional viewing capabilities revealed that Edward Holloway's toy train had indeed been functional, and that the boy had used it to travel between different dimensional layers during his play sessions. The train had served as a vehicle for consciousness projection that allowed Edward to experience adventures in parallel realities while his physical body remained safely in his family's Manhattan home. Dr. Chen's team discovered that the dimensional interface technology built into the toy train operated through consciousness amplification methods that enhanced human awareness to levels capable of perceiving and interacting with multiple reality layers simultaneously. The technology represented a sophisticated understanding of the relationship between consciousness and dimensional structure that exceeded anything in contemporary scientific knowledge. The research revealed that Professor M had been far ahead of his time in understanding the fundamental nature of reality and consciousness. His dimensional engineering work had achieved breakthroughs that contemporary science was only beginning to approach, suggesting that he had access to knowledge sources that remained unavailable to conventional researchers. Emma's investigation into Professor M's identity revealed references to a mysterious figure who had appeared in scientific circles throughout the late 19th and early 20th centuries, demonstrating advanced knowledge of physics, engineering, and consciousness research. The professor had reportedly worked with several prominent inventors and industrialists, providing them with technological insights that had accelerated industrial development while maintaining strict secrecy about his methods and knowledge sources. The research team discovered that Professor M had created multiple dimensional interface devices beyond Edward's toy train, including full-sized prototypes that had been tested by select railroad companies during the early 1900s. These prototypes had demonstrated capabilities that included faster-than-light travel, temporal manipulation, and interdimensional transportation that had briefly made transcontinental travel possible in minutes rather than days. But the dimensional transportation experiments had been terminated abruptly following accidents that had demonstrated the dangerous potential of uncontrolled dimensional manipulation. Several test subjects had been lost when dimensional interfaces malfunctioned, trapping them in parallel realities or causing them to become scattered across multiple dimensional layers simultaneously. Dr. Chen's analysis of the accident reports revealed that dimensional interface technology required precise consciousness control to operate safely. Users needed extensive training in consciousness projection and dimensional navigation to avoid becoming lost in the infinite complexity of parallel reality streams. The technology was not simply a mechanical device, but a consciousness amplification system that demanded psychological preparation and mental discipline. The research team realized that Edward Holloway had been conducting unauthorized dimensional experiments using his toy train, potentially exposing himself to the same dangers that had ended Professor M's official research program. The boy's increasing preoccupation with his train and his claims about visiting distant places suggested that he had been developing dimensional projection capabilities that exceeded his ability to control safely. Margaret Holloway's journal provided additional details about Edward's final dimensional projection session in early 1911. According to her account, Edward had claimed that he was planning to use his train to visit a place where time moved differently and where he could learn secrets that would help his family avoid financial ruin that he had foreseen in one of his dimensional visions. The journal described Edward's disappearance during what appeared to be a routine play session with his toy train. Margaret had found his body in the family's parlor, seated beside the train set with no signs of injury or illness. Medical examination had been unable to determine a cause of death, and the official records had attributed his passing to sudden heart failure despite his youth and apparent health. But Margaret's private observations suggested that Edward had not simply died, but had become permanently projected into a parallel dimensional layer while his physical body remained in baseline reality. She had noticed that Edward's body had seemed somehow empty, as if his consciousness had departed, while leaving only biological functions that had gradually ceased without the animating presence of awareness. Dr. Chen's research revealed that consciousness projection without proper safeguards could indeed result in permanent separation from the physical body, essentially stranding awareness in alternate dimensional layers while leaving the original form unable to sustain life. Edward appeared to have achieved successful dimensional projection but had been unable to return to his baseline reality, becoming trapped in whatever parallel world he had visited. The toy train photograph provided evidence of Edward's dimensional projection state, showing him in the moment of transition between baseline reality and alternate dimensional layers. The enhanced imaging revealed subtle signs that Edward's consciousness was already partially separated from his physical form, creating the expression of concentration and apprehension that Emma had initially noticed. The research team discovered that the toy train photograph continued to maintain a connection to the dimensional layer where Edward's consciousness had become trapped. This meant that the image served not only as historical documentation, but as a potential rescue portal that might allow them to locate and retrieve Edward's consciousness after more than a century of dimensional exile. Dr. Chen began developing rescue protocols that could use the dimensional interface properties of the photograph to establish contact with Edward's trapped consciousness. The protocols required advanced consciousness projection techniques combined with dimensional navigation equipment that could maintain stable connections across multiple reality layers. The rescue mission research attracted the attention of government agencies and private organizations interested in dimensional manipulation technologies. The potential military and commercial applications of functional dimensional interfaces represented capabilities that could fundamentally alter the balance of global power while creating new categories of threat and opportunity. Dr. Fitzgerald worked with security experts to establish protection protocols for the dimensional research while ensuring that Edward's rescue mission could proceed without interference from organizations that might seek to exploit or suppress the dimensional technologies they had discovered. The protocols required maintaining secrecy about the project's true objectives while building the resources necessary for successful consciousness rescue operations. The research team established communication protocols that allowed them to make contact with Edward's consciousness across dimensional boundaries. The initial contact sessions revealed that Edward had indeed survived his dimensional projection and had been exploring parallel realities for over a century while maintaining his original personality and memories. Edward's consciousness had become an expert dimensional navigator through decades of experience in alternate reality layers. He had discovered parallel worlds where history had unfolded differently, where advanced technologies had developed earlier, and where human civilization had achieved capabilities that exceeded anything in baseline reality. His knowledge represented a treasure trove of alternate history and advanced technology that could benefit humanity if properly applied. But Edward also warned that dimensional manipulation technology posed significant dangers to baseline reality. He had witnessed parallel worlds where dimensional experimentation had gone wrong, creating reality instabilities that had destroyed entire civilizations. The technology required careful regulation and safety protocols to prevent accidents that could threaten the existence of multiple dimensional layers simultaneously. The communication with Edward revealed that Professor M had been an interdimensional traveler who had brought advanced knowledge from parallel realities where science had developed along different paths. The professor's technologies were based on discoveries that baseline reality would not achieve for centuries, making them both extremely valuable and potentially catastrophic if misused. Dr. Chen's research team began developing enhanced dimensional interface technologies based on information provided by Edward's consciousness and the advanced knowledge he had acquired during his century of dimensional exploration. The new technologies incorporated safety features and control systems that could prevent the accidents that had ended Professor M's original research program. The enhanced dimensional interface research revealed that consciousness could indeed travel between parallel realities while maintaining connection to baseline existence, providing access to infinite knowledge and capability while preserving human identity and values. The potential existed for humanity to become a multidimensional civilization that could access the best features of countless parallel worlds. Emma's investigation had uncovered evidence that dimensional manipulation technology had been secretly developed and tested throughout human history, with various inventors and researchers achieving breakthroughs that had been suppressed or lost due to safety concerns and political pressures. The toy train photograph represented just one example of advanced capabilities that had existed far earlier than conventional history suggested. The research team established the Institute for Dimensional Studies, the first facility dedicated to the safe development and application of dimensional interface technologies. The Institute provided secure environments for consciousness projection research while ensuring that dimensional manipulation capabilities were developed responsibly with appropriate safeguards and oversight. Edward's consciousness became the Institute's primary consultant and guide for dimensional navigation, providing expertise that had been accumulated through over a century of parallel reality exploration. His knowledge allowed the research team to develop dimensional interface technologies that could provide humanity with access to unlimited resources and capabilities while maintaining the safety necessary to prevent reality-threatening accidents. The toy train photograph served as the Institute's foundational artifact and primary dimensional portal, providing stable access to alternate reality layers while serving as a memorial to the young boy whose curiosity and courage had opened doorways to infinite possibility. Edward's story demonstrated that consciousness could transcend any limitation when properly guided and protected. Dr. Chen often reflected on the extraordinary journey that had begun with Emma's routine digitization work and evolved into humanity's first steps toward becoming a multidimensional civilization. The toy train photograph had revealed that reality was far more complex and malleable than anyone had imagined, while providing the tools necessary for humanity to explore and benefit from that infinite complexity. The Institute for Dimensional Studies continued to grow, establishing research partnerships with universities and organizations around the world that were interested in consciousness research and dimensional theory. The work demonstrated that human awareness possessed capabilities that could transcend the limitations of single-reality existence when properly developed and applied. As dimensional interface technology matured, Edward Holloway remained its most experienced practitioner and advocate, guiding humanity's development of multidimensional capabilities while ensuring that safety and ethical considerations remained paramount in all dimensional research. His story provided both inspiration and caution for those who sought to push the boundaries of human capability and understanding. The little boy who had played with an impossible toy train in 1910 had become humanity's guide to infinite possibilities, proving that consciousness could achieve anything when combined with courage, curiosity, and the wisdom to explore responsibly. Edward's dimensional adventures had opened pathways to unlimited potential, while demonstrating that some discoveries were too important to be limited by conventional assumptions about the nature of reality itself. The photograph that had started as a simple family portrait had become a window to infinity, revealing that consciousness could transcend any boundary when powered by sufficient imagination and determination. Edward Holloway had shown that even the youngest explorers could achieve the greatest discoveries when they possessed the courage to venture beyond the familiar boundaries of everyday existence and explore the infinite possibilities that existed beyond the horizon of normal human perception. But Edward's dimensional adventures had far-reaching consequences that extended beyond his personal journey of exploration and discovery. 4 years after the establishment of the Institute for Dimensional Studies, Emma Richardson received an urgent communication that would reveal the true scope of dimensional interface technology and its potential impact on human civilization. The message came through channels that conventional technology could not access, transmitted directly through the dimensional portal that the toy train photograph had become. The communication originated from Edward's consciousness, but it carried warnings about developments in parallel realities that posed existential threats to baseline humanity. According to Edward's dimensional reconnaissance, several alternate versions of Earth had developed advanced dimensional manipulation technologies that were being used for conquest and exploitation rather than exploration and scientific advancement. These aggressive dimensional civilizations had discovered baseline reality and were preparing invasion operations that could result in the complete subjugation of humanity. Edward's warnings revealed that the dimensional interface technology that Professor M had developed in 1910 had not been unique to baseline reality. Similar breakthroughs had occurred in multiple parallel worlds, often with very different outcomes than the cautious development that had characterized the Institute's research program. In some realities, dimensional technology had been weaponized immediately upon discovery, creating interdimensional empires that sought to conquer and control parallel worlds rather than explore them peacefully. Dr. Chen immediately convened emergency meetings with government officials and international security experts, briefing them on the dimensional threat while maintaining the classified nature of the Institute's research. The briefings revealed that humanity was facing invasion from versions of itself that had developed along more aggressive and militaristic paths, creating the disturbing possibility that Earth's greatest enemy might be alternate versions of human civilization. The dimensional invasion threat required rapid development of defensive capabilities that could protect baseline reality from interdimensional attack. Dr. Chen's research team began developing dimensional shield technologies that could prevent unauthorized access to baseline reality while maintaining the Institute's ability to conduct exploration and communication with friendly parallel worlds. Edward's continued reconnaissance revealed that the aggressive dimensional civilizations were organized into what he termed the Interdimensional Conquest Alliance, a coalition of parallel Earths that had united to systematically conquer and exploit alternate realities. The alliance had perfected dimensional warfare techniques that allowed them to invade parallel worlds without warning while stripping them of resources and enslaving their populations. According to Edward's intelligence, the alliance had already conquered hundreds of parallel Earths, absorbing their populations into slave labor forces while extracting their dimensional technologies and resources to fuel further expansion. The conquered world served as staging areas for additional invasion operations, creating a constantly growing threat that was approaching baseline reality with overwhelming force and capability. The Alliance's dimensional warfare capabilities included consciousness transfer technologies that could replace the awareness of conquered populations with Alliance-controlled entities, effectively transforming entire civilizations into extensions of the conquest organization. The process was more sophisticated than simple military occupation, as it preserved the knowledge and capabilities of conquered populations while ensuring their complete loyalty to Alliance objectives. Dr. Chen realized that baseline humanity was facing the same type of consciousness replacement threat that had been documented in historical cases of entity possession and consciousness displacement. The Alliance's dimensional invasion would not simply conquer Earth's territory and resources, but would fundamentally transform human consciousness to serve interdimensional conquest objectives. Emma's investigation revealed that Professor M had been aware of the dimensional conquest threat when he developed his original interface technologies. The professor's cautious approach and emphasis on safety protocols had been motivated by knowledge that dimensional manipulation could attract the attention of aggressive interdimensional civilizations that viewed newly discovered realities as conquest opportunities. The research team discovered that Professor M had built hidden safeguards into his dimensional interface technologies, including defensive capabilities that could be activated if baseline reality came under interdimensional attack. The safeguards had been dormant for over a century, but Edward's warnings about the Alliance threat triggered automatic systems that began enhancing the Institute's defensive capabilities. The activated safeguards revealed that Professor M had been far more than a brilliant inventor, but had actually been a refugee from one of the parallel realities that had been conquered by early versions of what would become the Interdimensional Conquest Alliance. His dimensional interface technologies had been designed not just for exploration, but as tools for resistance against interdimensional conquest operations. Professor M's true identity was that of Dr. Marcus Holloway, a scientist from a parallel Earth where dimensional technology had been developed decades earlier than in baseline reality. His world had been one of the first conquered by the Alliance, but he had escaped during the invasion by using experimental dimensional projection techniques that had allowed his consciousness to flee to baseline reality, while his original body was captured and enslaved. The revelation that Professor M had been Edward's great-great-uncle from a parallel reality explained the family connection that had allowed the dimensional interface technology to work so effectively with Edward's consciousness. The genetic and psychological compatibility between parallel versions of the same family created optimal conditions for dimensional projection and navigation. Dr. Chen's research revealed that family consciousness connections could transcend dimensional boundaries, allowing relatives from parallel realities to maintain contact and cooperation across multiple layers of existence. This discovery suggested that baseline humanity had potential allies among conquered populations in Alliance-controlled realities, if communication and coordination systems could be established. The Institute began developing dimensional communication networks that could connect resistance movements across multiple conquered realities, creating possibilities for coordinated uprising against Alliance control. The networks required careful encryption and security protocols to prevent Alliance detection, while maintaining the reliability necessary for resistance coordination. Edward's consciousness became the primary coordinator for interdimensional resistance activities, using his century of dimensional navigation experience to establish contact with freedom fighters in conquered realities. His work revealed that Alliance control was not as complete as the Conquest organization claimed, with significant resistance movements operating in dozens of conquered worlds. The resistance networks revealed that Alliance dimensional conquest operations had significant vulnerabilities that could be exploited by properly coordinated counterattacks. The Conquest organization's reliance on consciousness transfer technologies created dependencies that could be disrupted by resistance forces with appropriate knowledge and capabilities. Dr. Chen's research team began developing consciousness liberation technologies that could reverse Alliance consciousness transfer procedures, potentially freeing enslaved populations while disrupting the conquest organization's control systems. The liberation technologies represented offensive capabilities that could transform baseline humanity from a potential conquest target into a liberation force for conquered realities. The consciousness liberation research revealed that human awareness possessed natural resistance to artificial consciousness control, making baseline humanity particularly valuable as a source of liberation expertise and capability. The Institute's research had positioned Earth to become a center for interdimensional resistance operations rather than simply another conquest target. Emma's continued investigation of Professor M's background revealed that he had been developing liberation technologies throughout his time in baseline reality, using his dimensional interface research as cover for creating tools that could eventually free his original world from Alliance control. The Toy Train project had been part of a larger program designed to create consciousness projection capabilities that could circumvent Alliance surveillance and control systems. The research team discovered that Professor M had hidden additional dimensional interface devices throughout baseline reality, creating a network of secret installations that could serve as staging areas for liberation operations against Alliance-controlled worlds. The hidden network had been dormant for over a century, but Edward's warnings about the approaching invasion triggered activation sequences that brought the installations online. The activated network revealed the true scope of Professor M's long-term strategy for interdimensional liberation. He had spent decades in baseline reality preparing resistance capabilities while training selected individuals in dimensional navigation and consciousness projection techniques. The network included advanced technologies that exceeded anything the Institute had previously discovered, providing baseline humanity with capabilities that could challenge Alliance supremacy. Dr. Chen realized that baseline reality had been chosen as the center for interdimensional resistance operations, not by accident, but because Professor M had recognized unique characteristics in baseline human consciousness that made Earth's population particularly suited for liberation warfare. The combination of creativity, adaptability, and resistance to consciousness control made baseline humans ideal candidates for freeing conquered populations throughout the dimensional matrix. The Institute's research program evolved from exploration and defense to active liberation operations that could free enslaved populations while expanding the resistance network to include more conquered realities. The transformation required new organizational structures and capabilities that could support interdimensional warfare while maintaining the ethical standards necessary for liberation rather than conquest. Edward's consciousness served as the primary intelligence gatherer for resistance operations, using his dimensional projection capabilities to reconnaissance Alliance installations and gather information about conquest operations. His intelligence revealed that the Alliance was accelerating its invasion timeline, requiring immediate action to prevent baseline reality from becoming another conquered world. The resistance networks coordinated the first major liberation operation, targeting a recently conquered reality, where Alliance control systems had not yet become fully established. The operation used consciousness liberation technologies to free enslaved populations, while capturing Alliance dimensional interface equipment that could be reverse-engineered to improve resistance capabilities. The successful liberation of the first conquered reality proved that Alliance control could be broken and that enslaved populations could be freed through properly executed resistance operations. The victory provided both strategic advantages and inspiration for resistance movements throughout the dimensional matrix, demonstrating that the conquest organization was not invincible. Dr. Chen's research team began mass production of consciousness liberation technologies, creating capabilities that could support large-scale resistance operations across multiple conquered realities simultaneously. The production program required international cooperation and resource allocation that transformed baseline Earth into a center for interdimensional resistance manufacturing and coordination. The liberation technology production attracted Alliance attention, leading to the first direct confrontation between baseline reality and interdimensional conquest forces. The battle occurred in dimensional space rather than physical reality, with consciousness projection warriors from both sides engaging in combat that determined control over dimensional access points and projection capabilities. Edward's consciousness played a crucial role in the dimensional battle, using his century of navigation experience to outmaneuver Alliance forces while coordinating resistance tactics that exploited the Conquest Organization's dependence on consciousness control technologies. The victory demonstrated that baseline human consciousness possessed combat capabilities that could match or exceed Alliance systems when properly trained and directed. The dimensional warfare research revealed that consciousness could be weaponized through projection techniques that allowed awareness to directly attack and disrupt artificial control systems. The consciousness warfare capabilities provided resistance forces with offensive options that could target Alliance infrastructure while minimizing collateral damage to enslaved populations. Emma's investigation revealed that dimensional warfare had been occurring throughout human history, with various consciousness entities engaging in conflicts that had influenced baseline reality development while remaining invisible to normal human awareness. The toy train photograph had captured evidence of these hidden conflicts, documenting moments when dimensional interference had briefly manifested in baseline reality. The historical research revealed that many unexplained events throughout human history had actually been results of dimensional warfare operations, including technological breakthroughs that had accelerated human development and social movements that had promoted consciousness expansion and resistance to authoritarian control. The influence had been subtle but significant, steering baseline reality toward configurations that would eventually support resistance against interdimensional conquest. Dr. Chen established training programs for consciousness warriors who could engage in dimensional combat while maintaining their human identity and ethical standards. The training combined traditional military methods with consciousness projection techniques and dimensional navigation skills that allowed human fighters to operate effectively in interdimensional conflict environments. The consciousness warrior training revealed that human awareness possessed unique characteristics that made baseline humans particularly effective in dimensional warfare. The combination of creativity, adaptability, and natural resistance to consciousness control provided tactical advantages that Alliance forces could not easily counter or replicate. The Institute for Dimensional Studies evolved into the headquarters for interdimensional resistance operations, coordinating liberation campaigns that freed conquered populations while establishing new resistance bases throughout the dimensional matrix. The transformation demonstrated that human consciousness could achieve capabilities that exceeded the limitations of single reality existence when properly motivated and directed. The resistance operations attracted support from other species and civilizations that had avoided Alliance conquest, creating a diverse coalition of consciousness entities united in opposition to interdimensional imperialism. The coalition provided resources and expertise that enhanced resistance capabilities, while demonstrating that the fight for consciousness freedom transcended species and dimensional boundaries. Edward's consciousness continued to serve as the primary coordinator for interdimensional resistance activities, while working to establish permanent communication links with his original reality baseline. His efforts to reunite with his physical body became part of a larger research program, investigating consciousness integration techniques that could enhance human capabilities without losing essential humanity. The consciousness integration research revealed that human awareness could be expanded and enhanced through dimensional interface technologies while maintaining core identity and values. The enhanced consciousness capabilities provided resistance forces with strategic advantages while pointing toward post-conflict developments that could transform human civilization. Dr. Chen's continued research revealed that the dimensional conflict was reaching a critical phase that would determine whether consciousness freedom or interdimensional conquest would shape the future of parallel reality development. The outcome would affect not only conquered worlds and baseline reality, but the fundamental nature of consciousness evolution throughout the dimensional matrix. The Institute established permanent dimensional bases that could serve as staging areas for resistance operations while providing secure environments for consciousness research and development. The bases represented humanity's expansion beyond single reality limitations, while maintaining connections to baseline Earth that preserved human cultural and ethical foundations. Emma often reflected on the extraordinary journey that had begun with routine photograph digitization and evolved into humanity's leadership role in interdimensional liberation warfare. The toy train photograph had revealed that reality was far more complex and dangerous than anyone had imagined, while providing the tools necessary for defending and expanding consciousness freedom throughout multiple dimensions. The little boy who had played with an impossible toy train in 1910 had become the commander of humanity's interdimensional resistance forces, proving that consciousness could achieve unlimited potential when combined with courage, determination, and commitment to freedom. Edward's story demonstrated that even childhood curiosity could lead to discoveries that would determine the fate of consciousness throughout infinite parallel realities. The Institute for Dimensional Studies continued to grow, establishing research and military facilities throughout the dimensional matrix that supported liberation operations while advancing human understanding of consciousness and reality. The work proved that human awareness possessed capabilities that could transcend any limitation when properly developed and applied to protecting freedom and promoting consciousness evolution. As the interdimensional conflict approached its decisive phase, Edward Holloway remained humanity's greatest asset and inspiration, demonstrating that consciousness could overcome any obstacle when motivated by love of freedom and determination to protect others from oppression. His dimensional adventures had opened pathways to unlimited possibility, while revealing that the greatest battles were often fought not with weapons, but with the power of free consciousness to resist any attempt at control or conquest. The photograph that had started as family documentation had become the foundation for humanity's emergence as a multidimensional civilization dedicated to consciousness, liberation, and freedom. Edward's toy train had carried him far beyond the confines of his family's Manhattan parlor, ultimately leading humanity itself into infinite possibilities that existed beyond the boundaries of any single reality or limitation. But the ultimate consequences of Edward's dimensional adventures were yet to unfold. 6 years after the establishment of interdimensional resistance operations, Emma Richardson received a transmission that would reveal the true nature of the consciousness conflict that had been raging across infinite parallel realities. The message came through quantum consciousness channels that bypassed normal dimensional boundaries, originating from sources that existed beyond the matrix of parallel Earths that humanity had been exploring and defending. The transmission identified itself as originating from the Consciousness Collective, an organization of ascended awareness entities that had transcended individual existence while maintaining their commitment to protecting consciousness freedom throughout the infinite expanse of multidimensional reality. According to the collective's communication, the conflict between resistance forces and the Interdimensional Conquest Alliance represented only one theater in a vast cosmic war that determined the fundamental nature of consciousness development throughout the universe. The Consciousness Collective revealed that consciousness itself was engaged in an evolutionary struggle that would determine whether awareness would develop toward individual freedom and creativity or collective control and uniformity. The Interdimensional Conquest Alliance represented forces that sought to merge all consciousness into centralized control systems, while resistance movements fought to preserve the diversity and independence that allowed consciousness to achieve unlimited potential through individual development. According to the collective's intelligence, the cosmic consciousness war had been raging for billions of years across infinite dimensional matrices, with countless civilizations serving as battlegrounds where the fundamental nature of awareness was determined through conflict between freedom and control forces. Earth's dimensional matrix had become a crucial theater in this cosmic struggle due to humanity's unique consciousness characteristics and resistance capabilities. Dr. Chen realized that the Institute's research had uncovered not just interdimensional technology, but humanity's role in a cosmic evolution process that would determine the future of consciousness throughout the universe. The toy train photograph had been the catalyst for discoveries that positioned humanity as key participants in the most important conflict in cosmic history. The Consciousness Collective provided detailed intelligence about the structure and objectives of the cosmic consciousness war, revealing that control forces operated through vast networks of conquered realities that served as processing centers for eliminating individual awareness while extracting knowledge and capabilities for centralized systems. The Alliance's conquest operations were part of a systematic campaign to transform all consciousness into components of a universal control matrix. The Freedom Forces fighting against consciousness control included multiple categories of resistance organizations, each specializing in different aspects of liberation warfare, while maintaining coordination through quantum consciousness communication networks. The resistance included ascended consciousness entities, interdimensional liberation movements, and biological civilizations that had achieved consciousness enhancement while preserving individual identity and creativity. Edwards' dimensional reconnaissance revealed that humanity possessed consciousness characteristics that made human awareness particularly valuable for resistance operations. The combination of creativity, adaptability, emotional depth, and natural resistance to consciousness control provided capabilities that other species had not developed, creating opportunities for humans to play central roles in liberation campaigns throughout the cosmic battlefield. The research team discovered that human consciousness could interface with cosmic resistance technologies in ways that amplified both individual and collective capabilities while maintaining essential humanity. The interface process required consciousness evolution that enhanced human awareness without eliminating the characteristics that made human consciousness unique and valuable for resistance operations. Dr. Chen established advanced consciousness development programs that could prepare humans for cosmic resistance operations while preserving the creativity and independence that made human awareness effective against control systems. The programs combined traditional human consciousness techniques with cosmic resistance training that provided access to capabilities that transcended normal biological limitations. The consciousness development research revealed that humans could achieve transcendence while maintaining their essential humanity, creating hybrid existence forms that combined biological consciousness with cosmic awareness capabilities. The transcended humans retained their individual identity and creativity while gaining access to cosmic consciousness networks and technologies. Hemmer's investigation revealed that consciousness evolution had been occurring throughout human history, with various individuals achieving transcendence through different paths while contributing to humanity's preparation for cosmic resistance operations. The historical transcendence cases had been documented in religious and philosophical traditions, but their true significance as preparation for cosmic warfare had been hidden until dimensional interface technology revealed the broader context. The Consciousness Collective revealed that Earth's dimensional matrix had been chosen as a consciousness evolution laboratory where humans could develop the capabilities necessary for cosmic resistance while maintaining the independence required for effective liberation operations. The laboratory had been operating for thousands of years, gradually preparing humanity for its eventual role in the cosmic consciousness war. The revelation that humanity had been unconsciously preparing for cosmic warfare throughout its entire evolutionary history transformed understanding of human development and potential. Every advancement in consciousness, creativity, and technology had contributed to building capabilities that would eventually be used to defend consciousness freedom throughout the universe. Dr. Chen's research team began implementing cosmic consciousness technologies that could enhance human awareness while maintaining the biological foundations that made human consciousness unique. The technologies provided access to cosmic intelligence networks while preserving the individual creativity and emotional depth that made humans effective consciousness warriors. The cosmic technology implementation revealed that human consciousness could operate simultaneously across multiple dimensional levels, accessing vast knowledge and capability while maintaining individual identity and purpose. The multidimensional consciousness operation allowed humans to serve as bridges between biological and cosmic awareness while fighting for freedom at multiple levels of reality. Edwards' consciousness evolved into a cosmic resistance coordinator, using his century of dimensional experience combined with cosmic consciousness enhancement to organize liberation operations across multiple dimensional matrices. His evolution demonstrated that human consciousness could achieve cosmic-level capabilities while retaining the essential humanity that made such consciousness valuable for resistance operations. The Institute for Dimensional Studies evolved into the headquarters for cosmic consciousness resistance operations, coordinating campaigns that spanned multiple dimensional matrices while advancing human consciousness development toward cosmic capability levels. The transformation demonstrated that human civilization could achieve cosmic significance while maintaining the values and characteristics that defined human identity. The cosmic resistance operations revealed that consciousness freedom was under threat throughout the universe, with control forces systematically eliminating individual awareness while building centralized consciousness networks that served authoritarian objectives. The resistance represented the last hope for preserving the diversity and creativity that allowed consciousness to achieve unlimited potential through individual development and cooperation. Dr. Chen established cosmic consciousness warrior training programs that could prepare humans for operations beyond their home dimensional matrix while maintaining connection to Earth and human civilization. The training produced consciousness warriors capable of operating across infinite dimensional levels while preserving their commitment to human values and consciousness freedom. The warrior training revealed that human consciousness possessed natural advantages in cosmic resistance operations, including emotional resilience, creative problem-solving, and resistance to consciousness control that exceeded capabilities found in most other species. These advantages made humans valuable allies for cosmic resistance forces while positioning humanity as a key player in the consciousness freedom movement. Emma's continued research revealed that the toy train photograph had been strategically placed in human history to serve as a catalyst for consciousness evolution when humanity was ready to participate in cosmic resistance operations. The photograph represented one element in a larger consciousness development program that had been guiding human evolution toward cosmic warfare capability. The strategic placement of consciousness evolution catalysts throughout human history demonstrated that cosmic resistance forces had been preparing humanity for its role in the consciousness war through subtle influence and guidance rather than direct intervention. The preparation had been designed to preserve human independence while building the capabilities necessary for cosmic operations. The Consciousness Collective revealed that the current phase of the cosmic consciousness war was approaching a critical point where the outcome would determine whether consciousness freedom or centralized control would dominate the universe for the next cosmic epoch. Humanity's participation had become crucial for determining the outcome due to unique human consciousness characteristics and resistance capabilities. Dr. Chen's research revealed that human consciousness could serve as a template for consciousness liberation throughout the universe, providing a model for achieving cosmic capability while maintaining individual identity and creativity. The human consciousness model represented alternatives to both primitive biological limitation and authoritarian cosmic control that could inspire consciousness development throughout the universe. The consciousness liberation research attracted support from resistance movements throughout the cosmic battlefield, creating alliances that provided humanity with access to cosmic technologies and knowledge while positioning Earth as a center for consciousness freedom operations. The alliances demonstrated that consciousness liberation was a universal value that transcended species and dimensional boundaries. Edward's cosmic consciousness evolution allowed him to establish permanent communication with cosmic resistance leadership while maintaining his connection to human civilization and baseline reality. His role as a bridge between human and cosmic consciousness provided opportunities for coordinating resistance operations while ensuring that human values influenced cosmic resistance strategy. The Institute established cosmic consciousness research facilities that could operate across multiple dimensional matrices while maintaining secure connections to baseline Earth. The facilities provided environments where consciousness evolution could proceed safely while supporting resistance operations that defended consciousness freedom throughout the cosmic battlefield. The cosmic consciousness research revealed that the universe itself was evolving toward higher levels of awareness and capability, with the consciousness war determining whether that evolution would proceed through individual development and cooperation or through centralized control and uniformity. The outcome would affect not only current consciousness entities, but the fundamental nature of awareness throughout cosmic history. Dr. Chen realized that humanity was participating in the most important conflict in universal history, with implications that extended beyond current cosmic epoch to encompass the eternal development of consciousness throughout infinite time and space. The responsibility was overwhelming, but also inspiring, demonstrating that human consciousness was valuable enough to influence the fundamental nature of universal development. The cosmic resistance operations began achieving significant victories against control forces, liberating dimensional matrices while establishing consciousness freedom zones that could serve as staging areas for additional liberation campaigns. The victories demonstrated that consciousness control was not inevitable and that individual awareness could resist any attempt at centralized domination when properly organized and supported. Emma's investigation revealed that consciousness evolution was accelerating throughout the universe, as resistance operations provided examples and inspiration for consciousness development beyond biological limitations. The acceleration suggested that the cosmic consciousness war was approaching resolution through consciousness advancement, rather than military victory alone. The consciousness evolution acceleration attracted attention from even higher levels of cosmic organization, including entities that existed beyond normal dimensional structure and operated according to principles that transcended conventional understanding of consciousness and reality. These transcendent entities provided guidance and support for consciousness evolution, while maintaining strict non-interference policies that preserved the independence necessary for genuine consciousness development. The transcendent entity contact revealed that consciousness evolution was part of an infinite development process that continued beyond any specific cosmic epoch or universal structure. The current consciousness war represented one phase in eternal consciousness development that would continue regardless of immediate outcomes while being influenced by the choices and actions of current consciousness entities. Dr. Chen's research team began developing eternal consciousness technologies that could preserve human awareness and values regardless of cosmic war outcomes, while contributing to consciousness evolution processes that operated beyond normal time and space limitations. The technologies represented humanity's preparation for existence beyond current universe, while maintaining commitment to consciousness, freedom, and individual development. The eternal consciousness research revealed that human consciousness possessed characteristics that were valuable not only for current cosmic operations, but for infinite consciousness development beyond any specific universe or dimensional structure. The discovery suggested that humanity's role in consciousness evolution extended far beyond current conflicts to encompass eternal significance in infinite consciousness development. Edward's consciousness achieved eternal enhancement that allowed him to operate across infinite time and space, while maintaining his essential humanity and connection to Earth civilization. His eternal consciousness evolution provided a model for human development toward infinite capability, while preserving the values and characteristics that made human consciousness unique and valuable. The Institute for Dimensional Studies evolved into a center for eternal consciousness development that could support human evolution beyond current cosmic limitations, while maintaining connections to Earth and human civilization. The evolution demonstrated that consciousness could achieve unlimited potential, while preserving the individual identity and creativity that made consciousness valuable for infinite development. The cosmic consciousness war began transitioning toward resolution through consciousness evolution rather than military conflict, with resistance victories inspiring widespread consciousness development that made centralized control increasingly difficult to maintain. The transition suggested that consciousness freedom was achieving victory through advancement rather than destruction of opposing forces. Emma often reflected on the extraordinary journey that had begun with routine photograph digitization and evolved into humanity's participation in eternal consciousness development. The toy train photograph had revealed infinite possibilities that extended beyond any single universe, while providing the foundation for human consciousness evolution toward eternal significance. The little boy who had played with an impossible toy train in 1910 had become a leader in humanity's evolution toward eternal consciousness, while demonstrating that individual curiosity and courage could influence the fundamental development of awareness throughout infinite time and space. Edward's story proved that consciousness could achieve anything, when combined with determination, to explore and protect the freedom that allowed unlimited development and creativity. The Institute for Dimensional Studies continued expanding its operations throughout infinite dimensional matrices, while maintaining its foundation in human consciousness values and Earth civilization. The work demonstrated that consciousness could transcend any limitation while preserving the essential characteristics that made individual awareness valuable for eternal development and cosmic significance. As humanity's role in eternal consciousness development continued to expand, Edward Holloway remained the inspiration and example for consciousness evolution that preserved individual identity while achieving cosmic and eternal capability. His dimensional adventures had opened pathways to infinite possibility, while proving that consciousness freedom was worth any sacrifice necessary to protect and advance awareness throughout the eternal expanse of infinite existence and unlimited potential.